In other news, first-year FBS program Olympia was swept aside by a more physical, athletic Central Florida team. Some deem Eric Cook's first game a success, as the Raiders limited the Golden Knights to just around 100 yards passing. Others were more critical, noting a staggering 8 turnovers and lack of an ability to break down and tackle in the open field. Next week's opponent is even more worrisome for Raiders fans, as the Utes have both a dominant run game and imposing secondary.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm already looking forward to our game against Kansas. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited to watch our first in-state game against Utah. I'm really hoping that someday we can be rivals. But if the game against UCF showed me anything, it's that we are outmatched on a talent level. And that's why Coach Cook and his staff is focusing so hard on landing game-changing homegrown recruits. Speaking of game-changing recruits, here I am arriving in West Jordan to film some of Utah's finest players. I got the drone up in the air and watched a slugfest between powerhouses as West Jordan took on Pineview in a battle for the ages. And for Pineview, their future rests on the shoulders of Kai Linehan, brother of Matt Linehan out of Idaho. He's only a junior, but his name is generating buzz around the country, and it's easy to see why. Of course, it's not hard to look dynamic when you have a guy blocking up front for you like Trevor Bertier. Here we see him manhandle Hunter Bray and effectively take him out of the play entirely. Even D'Angelo Heath gets in on the action and locks up one side of the field against Chris Harris. Speaking of Chris Harris, what an athlete. Watching this guy on both offense and defense was a treat. He's got a bit of this knack to make plays. He really is a playmaker, and that was on complete display this weekend as we got to watch him make play after play for West Jordan. He's what their offense runs through, as well as their defense. Also on defense for West Jordan are the dynamic linebacking duo of John Schweiss and Ricky James. Ricky James levels punishment for anybody in the run game, as he hits hard and fast, while John Schweiss is the most perfect coverage linebacker I've seen in a long time. Last but not least, my favorite prospect, maybe out of this entire class, but definitely at West Jordan, Atari Mason. Atari is a dual threat as well as a dual athlete. He plays both punter and quarterback, and then plays baseball in the spring. Atari Mason has tremendous speed on his legs and is really good in the play action game, kind of like another recruit you're going to see a little later on in the video. He also has a really strong leg. His accuracy leaves a bit to be desired. And that about wrapped up my time in West Jordan. I didn't get to go to any other games, but I did get the clips, so you'll get to see those from their huddles. speaking of Kosi, I actually just found out his brother Kevin Mensah plays at UConn as a halfback and just won the Independent Player of the Week on offense. So that's pretty cool. And to end off this episode, why not a little practice? You know, it's weird. I started off this episode thinking we really have no chance of beating the Utah Utes, and I'm still not convinced that we do have a chance, but I did get a little bit from Eric Cook in this practice, and a direct quote from Eric Cook, and after hearing it all, I'm starting to think that maybe we do have a chance after all. I mean, it's not so far-fetched. If you look at our game against UCF, we were really controlling the game. In fact, if you take out those 8 turnovers, let's just say those 8 turnovers cost us 3 points apiece. We're looking at 24 points off of UCF's clock, or scoreboard, sorry. That's huge. And that's why I think Coach Eric Cook is looking to limit the turnovers, number 1, in this game. And in fact, he told me directly, and this is, again, a direct quote. He said, if we turn the ball over 1 time, we will lose the game. And obviously I don't agree with that completely. I mean, how many teams turn the ball over at least once and win the game? But I think what he's trying to convey is that there can be no mistakes this game. We cannot make mistakes. We have to run the game plan. And I'm being told that actually a game plan even more in depth than the game 1 against UCF is being developed. And offensive coordinator Chris Brad is being told by Eric Cook, we will run the ball. We will run it up their throats, down their throats, around their throats. We will run the ball today. Or tomorrow, I suppose. Or whenever the game is. Gosh, I'm losing track of time here. But Coach Chris Brad is looking to run it up the middle too. I'm being told that a lot of stretch plays and stuff like that will not be seen. He's going to look to run it up the middle and hit them in the middle of their line, because their line is pretty decent on the edges and their corners are fast and their safeties are fast. So the best way for us to get yardage is directly downfield, up the middle. Now, there is one player on their defense we really have to watch out for, and that is one of their linebackers, actually an outside linebacker. I want to say it's Bernard or something. I actually don't know his name. I haven't gotten to watch any Utah football. Been so focused on our season. But in their first game, he had 10 tackles alone, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. I've heard the guy's a monster. Exhibition, everything, spring game, he looked crazy. He's insane on the field, watching him fly around. We will be avoiding him as much as we can, according to Chris Brad. And finally, on offense, I'm hearing that Frank Charles is going to be used a bit more. He actually played a little quarterback early on in his high school career, not much, but we're looking to get him out on some tricky halfback passes, maybe put him in at the Wildcat so he's a bit of a threat on both. We'll see. I doubt it's going to come to much. I mean, you have your quarterbacks and you have your other players, as Roger Lindsay showed us last week. You don't put a punter in at quarterback. But we'll see. It may trip him up a little bit. And on defense, I have heard, now I haven't interviewed the defensive coordinator yet, but I've heard the plan is to run 3-4, run a lot of cover 0, a lot of cover 1. We're going to blitz. We're going to say, hey, you have to beat us on the outside runs. Same as we aren't going to try to beat them on the outside runs. We don't think they can beat us. You're going to have to run it up the middle. You're not going to pass on this team. Or, you're not going to pass on this team, but we're not going to worry about covering the pass is what I mean. Cover 0, cover 1. We will be forcing the issue up the middle. You will not get through our line. So we'll see how that works. Sounds like Cook's got a good game plan for the Utah Utes. I don't know if that'll be enough. Maybe the talent level is still too diverse. We'll see, but I'm hoping we can do something.